This afternoon, we have Anto nio Buscardini here from TravelTomorrow, which is an exciting new development coming out of Brussels. Antonio, do you want to say something about your own background?
Sure. Thank you very much for welcoming me. My name is Anto nio Buscardini. As you said, I'm based in Brussels. I own a communication agency here. We do a lot of things related to the European Union. We give a lot of assistance to MEPs at European Parliament, but also we conduct communication campaigns within the Commission. And one of our pillars is audiovisual. So in fact, we produce three TV series, that are broadcast by a French TV station, TV5 Monde, on tourism and heritage, cultural heritage. The main series is called Embarquement, which in English stands for boarding. And the way that that this happened, if we can move ahead with that, is that during this lockdown, naturally we had tons of episodes foreseen. We film between 10 to 15 episodes a year all over the world, and a lot of them had to cancel because we couldn't travel. So with the team, we were thinking on how to approach the situation and to find a solid plan B. And as this product is in French, we always intended to create something in English. So that was my first concern. And I was reading a declaration from the United Nations on the future of traveling and how we will travel tomorrow. And that immediately tricked me. I thought, well, I think there is something here, because in the spirit of our series, we try to discover the venue, the region we visit, by telling several stories and pitching several elements. So we don't do city destination, fun thing to do, but we try to include history and culture in an approach that the viewers will understand. Just to give a short example, when we filmed in Uzbekistan, we produced 7 episodes there. It was through gastronomy that we explained the spirit of the nomad. They have a wonderful dish named plov, and it's indeed a dish that comes from the nomads, and there is a lot of sharing as well. It's a moment of important sharing for their culture. So this is the type of examples we try to pitch. So during the lockdown, I read this declaration, as I said, and we decided to get together and to launch a new project named TravelTomorrow. This aims to be a global media, even though we are based in Brussels, and it's divided in 4 pillars. The first one is to give the floor, tell the story of all the people involved in the industry that suffered with COVID-19. So it's not only reporting the news, say the number of persons that were fired in a certain airline, but really to understand from the restaurants, the hotels, the airlines, the cities, everything that has been done in order to recover. Now, that's an important pillar, but this goes along with something that we believe it's very important on how to be sustainable. Because at least within the EU, we were going to a certain path where this was on the agenda. I mean, there was the negotiations with the Green Deal. There was a lot of talks on trying to educate people on how to travel. If you travel to a neighboring country, think twice on how you go there. Co-sharing, take the train, pay attention to your footprint, and so on. Some countries had a national strategy of avoiding a tourism of mass, a lot of people coming, and for what purpose. So we were going to the right direction, and suddenly we have this situation. And my concern is because you need cash flow, you need urgently money, because you need tourists right now, that the states will be tempted by saying, okay, you know what, let's give up and let's help them. And by helping them is come. Doesn't matter how you come, doesn't matter if you go against the strategy that the EU implemented.
Just come.
So by hearing the politicians, especially from the south of Europe, and the speech of Emmanuel Macron a few weeks ago, when you hear that the important thing is to get back on track, and it doesn't matter how, that concerns me. So this is the second pillar. It means that we will invite opinion makers, give the floor to people that decide, people that think the future, in order to put this back to the agenda, so that we are not making the same mistakes we were doing before. If I may, the third pillar is dreaming. So here it can be intended as city destination, but for us that we have the background of the TV station, what we want to do is to split into different topics and to approach the same place with a different angle. So we have indeed pieces on culture, we have pieces on arts, we have pieces on gastronomy, lifestyle. So you name it, it's really standard from a lot of media do worldwide. The difference is that right now you can't travel, or at least it's limited. So we will bring something new, which is a big component of audiovisual material. So we are using at the beginning our footage from our TV show, and to produce short videos with knowledge in English that aim to give you a glimpse of something unique in the world and to invite viewers to dream. So that's our third pillar. The fourth and the last one is very linked to photography. So to try to show the world through the lenses of our photographers, we have quite some interesting partners. Just to name you one here in Brussels, we have the biggest community on Instagram that joined the group called We Love Brussels. Odd enough, they are not Belgians, but they fell in love with the city, and they are branding more Brussels than even Belgians that come from here. So that's the last element that is really important for us. And to sum up, yeah, this initiative is for me quite an adventure, because even in terms of logistics and to get in touch with contributors to make it happen in these conditions, I mean, it was tough. It was tough to set it up.
Have you had any external funding, or have you self-funded it?
I founded it. That's the way we started. The way we live is through partnerships. Now, what we will try to do, because we want to keep our independence, of course, is that the partnerships we make are strategic partnerships with EU partners that are concerned about the second pillar I told you. So that's the money that we are looking forward and willing to receive, rather than just receiving money for propaganda. I believe that's the word. So that's our business model.
There's an obvious link between what you're doing, I think, and what I'm responsible for World Travel Market, which is this notion of responsible tourism, of delivering the product in a responsible way and encouraging travelers to experience destinations in a responsible way. And I've had a quick look at your Facebook page, and one of the things that's very interesting about that is that ethos comes through, I think, in what you're doing. Mm-hmm. But key to that is presumably the idea of respect and of trying to fit in with the culture of the places that you're visiting and to learn something. I was very taken by your example of the nomads and the meal. I don't know if you want to say a little bit more about that way of traveling.
Sure, because I mean, tourism, it's also a way to escape, a way to learn from one another. And the issue that we can face now is that by fear, by friction that exists, you start to put in some boxes some countries. And one of the first videos that we'll release will be about China, because that's something that concerns me as well.
Yeah.
I had the opportunity to discover a wonderful place in the province of Anhui. It's called Ongsun. It's a small village that I know for sure you know that for a long period of time, China unfortunately destroyed a lot of unique villages by thinking that, well, by having villages, it means that you're not at the vanguard, right?
Yeah.
And now they understood that we should keep it. It's a treasure. And Ongsun it's a treasure that should be shown to the world and not only for the Chinese public. And by doing this, you are also establishing the bridge. Because in our tomorrows, everybody working this field must say no to racism, no to putting a country in a certain box, even though if one or another country did here or there a mistake. That's my first remark. Regarding the link you can do between a small example and the culture of the country, that's for me key, because we do it all the time in our television show, and here we need to do a replica. A detail in geography sometimes provokes something that is a brand of a region. I have a perfect example in Valencia. So in Valencia, the famous paella comes from there. And you wonder why. And on the spot, I saw that around Valencia, you have something called the Albufeira, so it's a lake, and they are known to produce rice. So because they produce rice, and over there you had rabbits, so it's geography explaining you, listen, let's combine these things and we'll create a dish. So through the dish, you're understanding, in fact, the geography of the region.
Yeah.
This is the kind of stuff we like to explore.
And of course, architecture is the same, isn't it? That the building materials which have been used until very recently with concrete have always reflected the local area where they're coming from. And that's what's created a lot of the diversity in the world. But can I bring you back to this notion of traveling with respect? Because it seems to me that unless we change that in both the tourists and the hosts, we won't achieve the kind of tourism that I suspect both you and I aspire to become a more general model. It exists already, but it isn't yet the predominant model, is it, by a long way? If you think about the tourists who go to Amsterdam for hen parties and stag parties and to get drunk, that's not the kind of tourism that presumably you and I want to see in the future.
Completely. And by saying what you said, it doesn't mean that it shouldn't exist. For me, the key is a balance, because if you go to Amsterdam, naturally you're allowed to have fun and discover this part of what the city is offering. What is a shame is that because it works at some level, and you indeed are feeding bars, some restaurants, so a part of an industry, the other one is not included. So there is, I would divide this in two parts. It's what the city receives as a whole, because some people go there just to consume a certain kind of products, and you ignore museums, you ignore certain types of restaurants, you ignore a lot of elements from this industry. And the other part, and it's linked to be responsive as well, is that you don't have a full picture of what the city and the region can offer. And secondly, in the démarche you're doing, you can indeed do a lot of mistakes, starting with the way you reach the place, starting with where you sleep on the spot. So it's so important, and we were doing such a good job in sharing the information with the readers and the entities like yours, to perhaps it's arrogant to say this, to educate, but it's really to share knowledge to the travelers on how they can maximize their experience and pay attention to key values that we will need to protect in our tomorrows.
I think that's again somewhere where you and I probably agree that we've been very fortunate with the growth in the demand for authentic experiences. As a result of that, the responsible tourism agenda has been easier, I think, to address than it might otherwise have been. One of the straplines in responsible tourism that always works very well with destination managers, and generally by that I mean the people who actually own the city, the councillors and so on, the elected officials, is to ask the question: is your place, is your city, your national park, your village, are you going to use tourism, or are you going to be used by tourism? And I think that's a real litmus test, isn't it, for how tourism exists in a place. In Barcelona, for example, they very much take the line, as you probably know, that the tourist comes and they join with local people who are doing the same things, whether that's going to the bars and the nightclubs or the university, or going to see the Gaudi architecture. It's about the tourist coming in alongside the local community as a guest, rather than somebody who's coming in just to look at it as a voyeur. Do you get that perception elsewhere as well?
I do, especially the first part of your question, the perspective of local politicians. And I will add one thing. There is a certain shame, at least within Europe, of acknowledging that tourism is important.
Yes.
And that for the first time, we were obliged to say this, that within the European Union, it's between 11 to 19% of national GDP.
Yeah.
Some countries even refuse to have a Ministry of Tourism, because everybody says tourism can't be the striving force for development, because it will always depend on. So at least now things are clear. I mean, it's the reality we live. It has weight. It has a huge weight on our economies. So it means that not only in the structure of a government and in the local politics, they should acknowledge that tourism is important, and they should seize the opportunity to rethink the model and to not forget the good lessons from the latest years. I believe that, as I was saying at the beginning, they will be quite tempted to implement measures short term because of the need of cash flow, obviously.
Of course, and one understands that, and the hotels will want to be full again, and the hotel lobby is a very powerful one in most destinations. But I think there's grounds for optimism. Places like Amsterdam, Milan, Barcelona are beginning to talk about coming back to tourism in a slightly different way. But I imagine that over-tourism will again become a problem quite quickly. And I think the work that you and I do is really important in raising the question about whether that's really what you want.
That's it. I have something that happened a few days ago as well. So in Europe, we have this competition, the Champions League, and 3 countries won the possibility to host a few games. Particularly, Portugal will receive 9 games. Now, this naturally is linked to potential tourism, because there is a wave of, we don't know yet, but of people that can come from different countries. The importance that the government gave to this might lead you to think a bit, because this was announced by the president, the prime minister, and the mayor of Lisbon. So it's perhaps a sign that in the times we are living, more than providing the message, delivering the message that things are getting to normal, is to say, we need this as soon as possible. Until this moment, okay, I can agree with that, But what I'm worried is the after,
Yeah.
because they are pushing by reopening the borders, by saying to people, please, please come. Yes, come, but uh, in certain conditions. We can't forget that.
No, it's interesting for me that really nobody had noticed how important tourism was in the UK's rural economy
Mm.
until the foot and mouth epidemic. And
Mhm.
suddenly, when the tourists stopped going to the rural areas, people realized that it was an economic catastrophe. And we're seeing that on a much broader scale across the world with COVID-19, which has had the same effect, really, of revealing the scale of the problem when the tourism is cut off, as it has been for so many places during this pandemic. One of the things, just to refer to the Responsible Tourism Awards, which is behind me, this year we decided not to run the awards in the normal way. What we've done is to look for people to nominate individuals, businesses, destinations, people who have gone the extra mile to address COVID this year. And what we want to do is to recognize and share those experiences, partly to congratulate the people who've done it and to recognize it, but also to encourage others. And it may be, Antonio, that that's something we could work on together in terms of spreading the message. But I'm hoping we'll get lots of examples of guides and businesses and destinations which have gone out of their way to address the problems of COVID. I'm glad you're nodding.
Yes, from our side, I will be more than happy to support and raise awareness, especially because now physically it's difficult to indeed make something happen.
Yeah.
So that's why this platform exists, is really to help one another and to deliver the message. So more than happy.
Antonio, thank you very much. One of the other things I wanted to talk with you about is the problem of climate change. Lots of people are pointing out to me, and they're right, that whilst we can individually attempt to isolate ourselves from COVID, we can wear a mask, we can stay home, we can do all of the things which we're being encouraged to do, we're not going to be able to do that with climate change.
Mm-hmm.
Climate change is something which we have to address together. We can't address it individually, and that's both for us as human beings and for us as countries. You know, no one country can solve that. How do you see the climate crisis impinging on tourism in say 5 years?
Yeah, well, here there is a lot of comments. I would start first of all with the COVID-19 period. So here I'm talking about March, April. The fact that the numbers popped out. So we saw for a fact that in major cities in Europe, particularly, the fact that there was no activity was helping the planet. So that was indeed not a fact that people felt it when they had the opportunity to go to parks step by step. I believe that there was a common reaction saying, indeed, if we slow down, the situation can improve. I think this is an opportunity really to reshape things for the future and to keep what was done so far and start fresh. This is clearly linked to climate change. I truly hope that we can get back on track, but I'm so worried with some leaders we have globally that we are stepping back, because this is really linked to politics, to decision makers. It's up to them to set the path. The behavior you appeal to individuals is not enough. And also the positive echo comes from only parts of the world, because once again, it's linked to the priority. This is a bit the talk we were having, that the tourism industry needs cash flow. Well, for a lot of people, climate change is not an appealing talk, because they need to survive, and in their businesses that can pollute the world, well, they need that job, they need to keep on going. We are talking about a lot about education raising awareness and changing the mindset in parts of the world. So I am optimistic regarding some parts of our planet, but very worried with two segments. One is the Western world, some countries that have the responsibility to react and will not. And here we're talking about politics. And the other part of the world, because the message is not reaching. I mean, the message is not passing to its inhabitants and to the countries. So we are stuck there. There is a lot of work still to do in this part of the world. So overall, then it's a huge question mark for me how it will be in 5 years, because we are facing here different speeds.
And we both know that it's really got to be solved in the next 10 years, hasn't it? It's not something which can be put off. One thought, you may not have the answer to this, and don't be embarrassed if you don't, because very probably nobody does. But I mean, it's clear that in a world where multilateralism is breaking down, largely driven probably by America, really, the respect for multilateral organizations is lower than at any point in my lifetime, for sure. I don't know whether that means that organizations like the European Union are able, on a bilateral, multi-state but bilateral basis, potentially now to make more progress than was possible in a multilateral world where progress could be stopped by another power. Seems to me that that's the only small silver lining that there might be in a big dark cloud of what's happened in international relations. But I don't know if you have a perspective on that from Brussels.
Well, here two comments. First of all, it's clear that we are approaching to a new era, a new balance of power.
Yes.
There is no doubt about that. From Brussels' perspective, even though there is friction within the EU, and there will always be, because we are not a state, we are a union, we are very different from one another, and we try to compromise, that's the word here in Brussels, in order to achieve a greater good. I tend to defend the EU in the sense that at least the EU is clearly at the vanguard. It's the EU who is pushing the world to pay attention to this topic. It's the EU who is delivering the fundings in order to finance this. So if there is hope, it comes from here, not elsewhere. So, Europeans tend to be very critical, and that's a lot because of our historical background. We blame ourselves about everything. But I believe we should be proud of what we achieved so far and how we managed to deliver the message within the 27, because people in Hungary or people in Spain, they are both aware of the reality. So that's really an achievement, that the message is passing, that we have so many European days of no cars, of paying attention to the environment, cross-border exchange. Just think about the inter-regional projects that we have in those fields. So from Europe, I have really high hopes.
Antonio, that's been a really interesting conversation. I'm going to show now to everyone your Facebook page and encourage people to engage with the network that you've created. And I hope that you and I will speak again. I'm sure that we
Thank you very much.
will. Please don't go away while I just share screen.
Yeah, that's our Facebook page. And our website is traveltomorrow.eu.
Antonio, it's been a great pleasure to interview you, and I'm going to stop.
Thank you very much.
I will stop the recording now, but please don't go away.
Hold on.